Hey everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our presentation about the From Shelter to Service Dog program. My name is Sarah Eifert. I'm the Vice President of Marketing with Dogs for Better Lives, and I'll be your moderator. So I'm in Madison, Wisconsin today. I'd love to hear where others are attending from. You can share your location in the chat. So for those of you who are new to us, Dogs for Better Lives trains and places assistance dogs free of charge with deaf or hard of hearing adults, children diagnosed with autism, and licensed professionals working with vulnerable communities so people with disabilities can lead safer and more independent lives. And you can always learn more about us at our website, dogsforbetterlives.org. Today's presentation will be recorded, so we'll be sending out an email to all registered participants after the event. And you can ask your questions. We'll have a little bit of a Q&A after the presentation today. You can put those in the YouTube chat box. Little troubleshooting there. If you want to use the YouTube chat box, you'll need to sign in with either your Google or your YouTube account. If that doesn't work for you, you can email any questions over to marketing@dogsforbetterlives.org. And we will try to get to as many questions as possible today. If you'd like to view closed captioning, we do have that available. You can click on the little CC box at the bottom right of this video. So today's webinar is all about training shelter dogs to become service dogs, and features are From Shelter to Service Dog program. And you might know that Dogs for Better Lives has always trained shelter dogs since our founding in 1977. And this is a really continued focus for us. And the From Shelter to Service Dog program is our current program that's solely focused on training shelter dogs. I'm going to introduce our two of our wonderful staff members who are dedicated to this program every day, Melissa and Michaela. Melissa, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself, and we can get into the presentation.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Fathers, and I'm the Shelter Dog Program Coordinator here in Carrollton, Texas. So just a little bit about myself. I started a year ago. I had my first year anniversary in March, where I started with two of our senior executives with the program to get this started. And I have over 7 years of dog training experience behind me, 6 years of working as a professional assistance dog trainer with Dogs for Better Lives, as well as another assistance dog organization that trained service dogs for people with various disabilities as well. And then I have been on the volunteer side of the service dog world as a puppy raiser. So in high school and college, I raised puppies for 2 different service dog guide dog organizations, 2 German Shepherds and 2 Labrador Retrievers. And then on the flip side of when I'm not working, I'm married, as you can see, to my wonderful husband over here. And I have 2 pet Australian Shepherds that we both travel with, and I also partake in dog sports with them. And when I'm not doing anything with dogs, including my own, my husband and I like to travel, explore new places around Texas, and also new restaurants, and do different things. So that's a little bit about myself. And then Michaela will go ahead and introduce herself.
Yeah, my name is Michaela Stevens. I'm an apprentice trainer here with Dogs for Better Lives. I've been with DBL since October of 2022. Before I came to be a dog trainer, I was a veterinary technician and have 7 years of experience in that. I have 2 dogs of my own that you can see in the picture. The one I'm holding is named Sausage. He is a Dachshund. And then the other dog is a Husky mix. Her name is Luna. I love taking them hiking and exploring new places with them. And when I'm not doing things with dogs, I like backpacking, horseback riding, and exploring new cities. So, yeah.
Great. So now we're going to go into a little bit about the Shelter to Service Dog program, just a brief overview, and then we'll get into the more detailed side of it. Our 1-year public launch anniversary will be on June 12th, 2024. So June 12th, 2023 is when we evaluated our first shelter dog, who's actually in the picture, hearing assistance dog, Annie. Dogs for Better Lives partnered with a shelter here in Carrollton, Texas called Operation Kindness. It is one of the largest non-for-profit shelters here in the Dallas-Fort Worth region of Texas. It's quite incredible. They have their own veterinarian staff. They really focus on a lot of enrichment for their dogs, and they have a lot of dogs that are unfortunately surrendered or transferred from other shelters, but it gives us a lot of dogs to be able to work with. And their morals and values are kind of the same as Dogs for Better Lives, which makes it a good partnership for us. We currently, between Michaela and I, with training the dogs, we have 7 shelter dogs in the program. And the 2 dogs in the picture who started back in June and July of 2023 are our first 2 graduates with this program. So Annie went on to be a hearing assistance dog, and Walker went on to be a facility dog here in Texas, which is super special for this program. So we're going to talk a little bit about the dogs currently in our program, and we'll start with the first one.
Okay, so our first one here is Chucky. He is an adorable 2-year-old lab shepherd mix. As of right now, we're hoping that he can become one of our first certified hearing dogs for the Shelter as a Service program. He's a goofy boy who will work very well for cheese, and in his spare time when he's not working, he enjoys playing with his foster siblings on a big ranch. So he's a pretty lucky boy. Our next girl is Leica. She is 6 months old, a very smart girl, loves to learn new things. She is also on track to be a certified hearing dog with us. Like I mentioned, she just loves training. She just wants to learn. And other than that, she really just loves people and being around people and all the things. So she's a very happy little girl. Next, we have Miss Chili, which is our smallest girl. She is tiny but mighty. She's a 1-year-old terrier mix who is also on track to be a certified hearing dog. She loves learning new things, and when she is not working, she likes playing with her toys.
And then moving on to Juno, he's a 5-month-old Labrador Retriever mix. His current track is a facility dog, and his favorite things to do are playing with his foster siblings, getting belly rubs, and he does like to train. He likes everything people-oriented, so he is super great at cuddling and giving kisses and all of that. And then we have Brother. He is our newest pup in the program. He's an 8-month-old terrier mix. We're kind of not sure where we think he's going to go, since he actually just had his first training session with us yesterday. So he's brand new, but some of the things that his foster reports and that we've noticed is he loves playing with toys, and he is highly food motivated. So he does like to train and work for treats. And we have Duke, who's a 1-year-old Border Collie mix. He's currently on track to be a certified hearing dog as well. Some of his favorite things, like most herding breeds, is he loves to train and loves to think and learn. He loves to play with toys and run around and throw his toys up in the air and chase them and kind of make fun little dog noises at him. And he also enjoys squirrels. And then we have Coyote, who's also a small but mighty, like Miss Chili. He's a 1-year-old terrier. His current track is currently still being determined, as he's kind of new like Brother. But so far, he loves interacting with people, and he likes playing with toys. His favorite toy is that large bone. This picture kind of shows a little bit of the training space that the dogs get to learn the different skills to become an assistance dog here in the Shelter to Service program in Texas. So here he is, just kind of playing with a toy and hanging out and acclimating to the apartment.
Love seeing these faces. Thank you for introducing us to them.
Yeah. So a little bit about how the program works. So with the Shelter to Service dogs, there is a lot of steps. So the first step is that the dog enters the shelter. So this can be either from it's an owner surrender, It can be that the dog is transferred from another shelter that's local to the area. Operation Kindness works with a lot of partner shelters. And so when they become overfilled, they will send dogs to Operation Kindness, or they can be found as strays. So when the dogs go to Operation Kindness, the first thing that happens is that they get evaluated by the Operation Kindness staff. So they have like an initial veterinary check to make sure that they don't have any chronic or contagious diseases or illnesses. They are checked behaviorally to see kind of what category they go on. Operation Kindness has a really cool categorization check for the dogs that come in to the program to help them best be handled and known by different staff and volunteers that come in from there. And at the point that they enter the shelter and are evaluated, we have access to them on a separate database that kind of shows us all of that information about the dog in the shelter. And if it looks like the dog is a good fit for us, we will go and evaluate the dog ourselves and kind of see how they do with the various temperament test, and we'll go into that as well. And then if we like the dog and they pass evaluation, the dog is selected for the program, and then they move into a foster home. From the foster home, the dog will live with the volunteer foster in the home for approximately 7 months. While the dog is also being picked up by Michaela or I for training. The fosters can be involved in training as well. So we show them basic training. We show them our expectations. All fosters kind of get a manual to learn our expectations and learn about the program. And they get a lot of one-on-one support from myself and Michaela. After the 7-month period, it might be a little longer depending on the dog and how their training is progressing. If the dog does make it through the whole training program, the dog will get matched with a Dogs for Better Lives client who's on our list to receive an assistance dog. And then the dog goes on a week-long home placement in the home with the new client. So the client can learn all of the things that the dog was trained on, and then they can kind of start their bonding process and learn about each other. So you can see that from the point of the dog entering the shelter through the entire process to be hopefully becoming an assistance dog, there's a lot of different steps for the dog to kind of check to be able to make it as a fully trained assistance dog.
Yeah, and just to interject, the foster piece really is the biggest differentiator from how we had trained shelter dogs in the past. So that's kind of the newest piece. It's meant to give the dogs a better chance to kind of decompress and be able to focus on their training when they're living in a comfortable home environment, as opposed to in one of our training campuses. So just wanted to highlight that's the biggest difference.
Yes. So how do we select the dogs? So what are we looking for in the criteria of them? So the biggest thing is the ideal age range for them is about 6 months to 2 years of age. It's not set in stone. So if there's a dog like Leica and Juno, who are about 5 months old, if they show really good, promising qualities when we meet them, and we have a foster available for them, we'll consider, a younger dog than 6 months. Same thing with the 2-year age. If we evaluate a dog who's maybe 2.5 or 3, but shows a lot of promising qualities, we'll go ahead and take that dog for our program. We want the dogs to be social and friendly. So the biggest things we want to see is how the dog reacts to new people, reacts to us. We want a dog who's right off the bat, like, a person. They're very happy. That's an important quality for an assistance dog. Even though when they're working, they should be ignoring people, we need to make sure the dogs aren't fearful. They aren't nervous of strangers, because as time goes on in the program and as we evaluate them in public, it's important that they don't get nervous with strangers. We want them to be confident naturally, but of course, these are shelter dogs. We don't have a lot of history on them. And sometimes when they're in the foster home, their temperament comes out a lot more once they get acclimated and comfortable. And so if they do show any signs of being nervous or uncertain, the ability for them to recover well and take things and learn in stride is important. So just kind of like people, if we get scared of something, that's okay. Same thing with an assistance dog in training, but we're really evaluating how do they react to it. If they get scared and then with proper encouragement, they're like, oh, okay, that wasn't so scary. That's easier to work through than a dog who maybe if they get scared, they bolt to the end of the leash barking and trying to hide. The temperament evaluation is that's completed by the Dogs for Better Lives staff, goes over with them, evaluating their sociability, evaluating confidence. We want to see how they react to maybe some scary things. And it's also done at the shelter, the initial one. If they do well at the initial evaluation, we'll take the dog to the training apartment, and then we'll also kind of take the dog to a park to see how they do outside. And of course, again, these are shelter dogs, so we're not really expecting any sort of structured training or, you know, them to be walking nicely on a leash at all at this point. We're just kind of evaluating how they react as an individual dog in the world. And so with the importance of fosters, dogs that are selected, like I had mentioned in the overview, go into volunteer foster homes for up to 7 months. And like Sarah mentioned, this is the biggest difference with this new program. It's a lot better for the dogs with decompression, like as she mentioned, but it's also really helpful for us to get knowledge on the dog, on how they are in the home. Do they counter surf? You know, do they alert bark? Do they, you know, are they fearful when new people come over? With the traditional purpose-bred puppy raising program, you know, the puppies are born, they go into volunteer foster homes from the time they're born until 1.5 years. So when they come to the campus in Oregon and they live in a kennel, we already have a lot of history on the dog, on how they are in a home. They were raised in a home. And so we don't get that with the shelter dogs most of the time, unless we have a history on them from being an owner surrender. And so with them living in a foster home, it provides us with a lot of good information about the dog. So if the dog does pass all of its training, we know what to work on with the dog. We're always looking for new fosters who are interested in being a part of changing a life of a shelter dog and helping to train a shelter dog and potentially change the life of an individual with a disability. So with the foster program, at least right now, since it is in Carrollton, Texas, you do have to be local to the Dallas-Fort Worth region if you want to foster for the 7-month period, but there's a lot of support that is involved with it. We have 6 at this moment, 6 amazing fosters who we couldn't be doing this without them. And quite honestly, we couldn't have this program without our fosters. If we didn't have fosters, we could have great dogs that we're evaluating, but where are they going to live for their training? As much as Michaela and I love dogs, I don't think we want to be living with 6 or 7 of our own work dogs on top of our own pets. And the fosters work closely with the shelter dog program coordinator, which is myself. And then, of course, Michaela, since she's an apprentice trainer here, and then any other trainers that are here. So it's very involved. You don't just get a dog and then you're like on your own. So you have a lot of support with this program.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about what a typical week of a dog in training with our shelter as a service program looks like. So in the beginning, we kind of take it easy on them and only train them a couple times a week, just because they're acclimating to their new home and their new foster parent, of course. As they progress, the amount of times we train them per week will increase as well to about 4 to 5 times, depending on where they're at in their training. The dog will be picked up by Melissa or I in the mornings so that they can go to training, and then they'll either go back to the training apartment or various town trips to assess their potential and how they work in public. We start with pet-friendly locations and just, to see how they do. And then we move to, once they have their basic training and some confidence under their belt, then we can go to public spaces that are non-pet friendly and work them in best and get, more acclimated to different kinds of stores, busier stores, stuff like that. The fosters are either home when we pick up and drop off the dogs, or they provide us with a way, that we can get to their home and pick them up and drop them off ourselves. Every single week, the training progresses from the past week, and each dog progresses at a different rate, of course, and so they get personalized training programs for each one of them, so that way we can meet their needs and adjust accordingly, and work harder on what they may be struggling with. So, yeah. Here at Dogs for Better Lives, we have three career paths that dogs can go into. Primarily, we train hearing dogs, and there's two types of hearing dogs, one being a certified hearing dog and the other being a home hearing dog. The difference between the two is the certified hearing dog has public access. So they're nice and confident. They can pretty much go with you anywhere. That is, pretty much go with you anywhere. A home hearing dog is a dog that maybe just doesn't have quite as much confidence out in the real world, but can still be a great companion and alert you to sounds in the home. So they just don't have that public access piece. Next, we have our autism dogs. So they are specially trained to enhance the safety and well-being of children and families living with autism. They are trained in tasks that help with grounding and deep pressure to help children with autism. And then our last one is facility dogs, which are trained to do specific skills and are placed with a professional or volunteer that supports people with disabilities. So examples of people that may have a facility dog would be like a therapist, somebody who works at a child advocacy center, or even a police station. So there's a lot of places facility dogs can go, which is really cool. Okay, and then a very common question is what happens if the dog does not graduate? So since we partner with the wonderful Operation Kindness Shelter, if at any point we decide that the dog is not suited to be an assistance dog, because we are we kind of let the dogs decide, if they want to do this work or not, or if they want to be a pet. So if at any point they decide that, this isn't for them, we oblige by that. They go back to Operation Kindness, and then they get adopted by a loving home. And it's pretty great, even if they do spend a little bit of time with us, because they go back to the shelter now with new skills, such as being potty trained, sit, lay down, so that way they're more successful in their new home. We do our best to select qualified dogs from our evaluation process, but for anyone who's familiar with shelter dogs, sometimes once they are in the home, some of the behaviors they exhibit once they're comfortable and confident, new behaviors come out. So then we gotta change it up there. The most common behaviors we see for dogs that do get returned back to the shelter are anxiety and stress, separation anxiety, fear behaviors that don't get any better even after being worked on, or any aggression to people or other animals. Okay, so did you want to speak on this one? Sorry.
You're doing great, Michaela. You can keep going.
So how can you help? So if you do happen to be local to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, signing up to become a foster would be amazing. I know Melissa and I have both mentioned that the ideal timeline is about 7 months to get these dogs trained. But even if you can become a foster sitter, we do have our main fosters, they go on vacation, they do other things. So sometimes we need like a weekend or a week-long foster, super helpful, or any other kind of volunteering time slots with the dogs that are in current training. If you are not local to this area, that's no problem. You can still help us out by sharing what you have learned about this program, because we all know how amazing word of mouth can be, and then we can get the word out. So those are two great ways to help.
Right.
Okay.
We are in the question period of today's presentation. So feel free, if you have any questions for Melissa and Michaela, to drop them into the YouTube chat. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. And I see we've got a couple already.
Mhm.
The first one is from Blinker Blonde. What skills do the certified hearing dogs have when they graduate your program?
Sure. So the certified hearing dogs, along with being able to go into public, so they're walking nicely on a loose leash, they're ignoring other distractions out in public, they're able to settle at a restaurant, they're able to go on airplanes, they can do everything with the person out in public that they need to be able to do without being a hindrance or a distraction. As far as the hearing tasks that the dogs have, so the dogs are trained on kind of as many sounds as the person needs. But from a training perspective, when they are in training with us, we teach them 4 main sounds. It's an oven timer, a phone, a door knock, and then a smoke alarm. So the dogs are trained to alert to those different sounds, and then as well as a dropped item. So if we're walking through the store and say we drop our car keys out of the pocket, the dogs will hear that drop noise and they will start alerting and letting us know that we dropped whatever we had. So in a full alerting sequence to a sound looks like the dog hears the noise. They'll come over and tap the individual's leg if it's a larger dog. If it's a small dog, we teach them hup, which is they kind of jump up on your leg to notify the person, and then they'll actually bring the person to the sound that's going off, so the person can know what exact sound they're going to.
Great. And Phil had a great follow-up question for this. So regarding the word certified, are there actual standards or tests that dog must pass?
Yes. So Dogs for Better Lives is under an umbrella or big organization called Assistance Dogs International. And so Assistance Dogs International is an organization that oversees almost every assistance dog organization in the world that wants to be a part of the Assistance Dogs International. So it's our program. There's programs that train for medical alert. There's programs for guide dogs, PTSD, all of that. And so to be a part of that association, we have to make sure that the dogs are passing what we call a public access test, and then as well as passing like a task work test. So when we are doing an evaluation with them before they go into public, they're being tested to make sure that they can act appropriately in public. They are walking on a loose leash. They know various, obedience commands like sit, down. They have a word to go over to the left side, like heel. When we go to restaurants, they have to lay down, and we test them like if food drops on the ground, they can't be grabbing the food. And then of course, kind of like what I mentioned with the different skills for the hearing alert, they need to be able to do those as well.
Yeah, and test days are very exciting. It's always really fun to see the outcome of many months of work. For sure. George has a great question. I can take this one. So George says, I'm hard of hearing, veteran with a hearing disability. How do I obtain a dog who graduated from your program? And so the first step, George, is to go to our website. We have dogsforbetterlives.org/dogs. You can click on the hearing dog kind of button, and that will get you all the information needed there. Our application process, just some frequently asked questions, and you can go ahead and submit that application right away. We do have all dogs that are graduating our program are free of charge to our clients, so that should not be a barrier. Sniff, Treat, Repeat has a couple of questions for us. Do you find that all the transitions hinder the dogs at times? So I'm guessing that's between shelter to fosters to forever home.
Sure. So I think yes and no. I think for any dog, transitions can be a little bit of a challenge, especially with shelter dogs that weren't purposefully, necessarily bred for their temperament sometimes. Um, we do find them being in the foster home and having that at least 7 month time once they get used to being in the foster home and then they get used to either working, they get pretty good of their routine of knowing, okay, I go home to my foster and I go for training. And the dogs that are, successful and make it through the program actually, they get really excited to see us when it's pickup time. And then equally they, get excited for drop off time being with their foster. And like Sarah had mentioned with the dogs being in fosters, the dogs are much less stressed since they are living in a home environment with people, 24 hours a day rather than going to live in a kennel environment. So yeah, I think they do get a little stressed, but nothing that's abnormal. And if the dog does show stress that is not resolving at any point in time over the training, then we will release the dog from our program and share the information with the behavior team at Operation Kindness. So that way they also know and can evaluate the dog and know where to place the dog as that it'll be best suited to be a pet.
Great. So we have a question on fostering. So Sniff, Treat, Repeat wants to know, what do foster parents do in terms of training?
Sure. Do you want to take this one, Michaela?
Yeah. So we have a couple different kinds of fosters. Basically, they tell us how much they want to help us with training. We have a couple fosters that are just providing a good or an amazing home while we are doing the bulk of the training. They're still helping us with the just kind of, being a dog in a home, because some of these dogs have been strays for a long time. So they're helping us with like, hey, you don't get to counter surf, you don't get to get in the trash. And that is the extent of what they help us with training, which is amazing. Other people are like, yeah, I really want to help you guys train, which is equally amazing. So we kind of assess the dog, see where they're at with things, and then we provide them with like a training plan of what you can do at home. And so we have a couple of people that are helping us quite a bit with, sit down, stay, confidence out in public, crate training, potty training. And so those foster parents pretty much after every, I'd say a lot of training sessions, we're sending them an email of like, hey, here's what we worked on. We noticed a lot of progress in these avenues. And then here's a plan for what you can start working on next. And Melissa and I will provide videos so that way they have a visual of how they can do it with their foster dog in the home, and just frequent check-ins. And if they have a problem, they can reach out to us, email us, or when we're doing pickups and drop-offs, we can chat about it and say, kind of troubleshoot what they're doing. So we have a wide array of fosters that want to help in different ways. So it's pretty cool.
Great. Blinker Blonde asks, do you offer your training program as a package to trainers who are not local in Texas? So Blinker Blind, we do have an apprentice trainer program, which Michaela is actually a part of. It is a 3-year paid apprenticeship that teaches you all the skills you need to become an assistance dog trainer. So that's really the main way from a professional perspective to become a trainer. There's also plenty of opportunities, just as Michaela was sharing. If you were a foster in this program, you would have some opportunities to learn some training. And our puppy raisers, so this is on our breeding program side of things. If you have a puppy, we also there's training opportunities with that as well. So just some things to keep in mind if training is something of interest to you. Lori is asking, what kind of work do you do at the Falmouth, Massachusetts facility? Is it possible to volunteer there?
Yeah, the Falmouth, Massachusetts does, they do more of purebred dogs. So they'll get the dogs from the puppy raiser homes at about 16 to 18 months old, but they are training for the same 3 categories that we are. So essentially they do the same work just with purebred dogs. And yeah, you can definitely, I'm sure they would love volunteers out there. So
yeah. Our two main volunteer opportunities around Falmouth are the puppy raising program, and then we also have a regional advisory board in the Northeast that they do a lot of fun outreach events and help spread the word about Dogs for Better Lives. So two great options. Couple of questions came in from Christina. What are some of the obstacles to leveraging more shelter to service success stories?
Yeah, so our biggest obstacle is the foster homes. So the foster home piece, a lot of, it's a lot of work to be able to commit to having a dog in your home for 7 or 8 months at a time. Most people who are involved with fostering for shelters, it's a very short period of time that they have the dogs for. And so they'll foster for a weekend or foster for a week or two, and then that dog moves on to another home. So a lot of times, people are hesitant, and this is for shelter dog fostering and purpose bred. People are hesitant to have a dog for such a long period of time because they'll grow attached, and they worry about how hard is it to give the dog back or give it up for training. So I would say having enough fosters is the biggest challenge. And then also, if we do get more fosters, we need more trainers or volunteers who are open to maybe learning about the program and maybe coming to be like a volunteer and learning how to just manage the dog or do some very basic training. And that could help Michaela and I or other staff members that are here in Texas progress the dog's training.
Great. And then is there a future, this is also from Christina, is there also a future longer term strategy to build up this program?
Yes, there currently is. Our CEO works really closely with the board and also our vice president of programs. We do have a 5-year kind of long-term plan as far as what it looks for, like for this specific location, and then as well as how we could potentially expand to different locations. But that is all currently kind of under the works. Some of the things that we are discussing for our Texas location is maybe we can get involved with a college and start like a foster raising club. So having people at a central location, like several people, like in colleges would be great. They can have the dogs and we go and do like, a couple times a week training with them, how they can help train the dog. And then we're also training the dogs.
Great. And I have one more that came in by email, but if there are other questions for those attending live, just drop them in the chat and we'll get to those here in a second. This one is from Jean, and I don't think we covered this. Is it better for the dog to be female or male, or does it not matter?
No, it doesn't really matter. We evaluate and treat the dogs as individuals. So as long as they have that, temperament that we talked about a little bit of being confident or quick to recover, being social, doesn't matter if it's a female or male. All the dogs that do go on to graduate, though, they are spayed and neutered. So no breeding program for the shelter dogs.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Melissa and Michaela. I really appreciate you sharing more about this program. I know this is a program that a lot of our community is really excited about, because being able to see shelter dogs get that sort of second chance and really help somebody is a really exciting and powerful thing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just share a quick plug that all of this is made possible through donors. So we are a nonprofit. We're not trying to make a profit. As I mentioned in response to George's question, all of our dogs are placed free of charge with our clients. And those who make a donation, 100% of those donor dollars go directly to the program. So it's a great way to support service dogs. This program, all of our other programs, really helping to get more dogs out with people in need. And then we also have an upcoming event. So on Saturday, May 18th, we'll be doing another round of Bon Appetit. So last year, if you recall, we had a inaugural event for it was a dog treat recipe competition. So we had contestants from around the country who presented their dog treats, all in pursuit of becoming top dog. So we're doing that again this year on May 18th. It's going to be fun. You can RSVP at the link on the screen. All right, and thank you everyone for attending. We do have a survey, so we'll send that in the replay email and also drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear what you thought of today's presentation, what future topics you would like us to consider. But otherwise, I hope everyone has an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.